Good morning, chemistry students. This is Mr. Barone here. I am coming to you live from my house again. It's March 18th, 2020. This is the second online video lesson that I'll post. And I think this should be more like the videos you should expect. It should be hopefully 5 to 10 minutes long, pretty focused, a narrow focus of what the lesson is about. And then you'll have the rest of the time to sort of work on anything. So, but we do want to sort of get back in the habit of our sort of lesson structure. With that being said, I have a do now for you with 2 old Regents questions, and I have blocked out the answer choices. So why don't you take a minute, read the questions carefully, and think about what might be behind those blue boxes. Think about lessons that the questions make you think about, or labs, etc. So why don't you try to make some connections to these 2 questions, and then we'll look at what's behind those blue boxes. All right, so you should have paused the video there for a few minutes and thought about it, maybe jotted down some ideas in your notebook. The 2 questions, strontium and barium have similar chemical properties because atoms of these elements have the same number of blank. You should definitely be gravitating towards this phrase here, similar chemical properties. That is a phrase that should be pretty important. So if those of you guys who have a connection in your head, I'm guessing you sort of honed in on that phrase. Also, strontium and barium, they should have something in common. You should have tried to say, well, look, maybe you don't know what similar chemical properties should mean, but maybe you know that you have a reference table with you. You can go look at strontium and barium and see where they are on the reference table. What do you notice about that? So those are the 2 main connections I would try to make to number 8. For number 9, which term represents the fixed proportion of elements in a compound? So it's a pretty short question. It's sort of a definition question. But again, if you're thinking about connections that you can make, fixed proportion is a phrase we've heard and a definition we've talked about in class. The word the phrase elements in a compound as well. Those should bring up some ideas in a unit that we talked about earlier in the year. So we're going to go and remove those two blue boxes here. Okay. And there you go. Those are your answer choices. Now I'm going to pause the video again. You should do the same and think about what your answers would be and why. All right, welcome back. Here we go. So strontium and barium. One thing that you should have noticed is that those are both alkaline earth metals. They are both in group 2. Okay, so they're both in group number 2. Okay, sorry. There. So that's one thing. And then secondly, the phrase similar chemical properties, that should mean that they react the same way. So if they're both in group 2, both of these elements are in group 2, they will form compounds in similar ways. And why would that be? Well, strontium and barium, they certainly don't have the same number of protons. They don't have the same number of neutrons. If they had the same number of protons, they would have the same atomic number. They would be the same element. So we know that can't be the case. Neutrons also doesn't make a whole lot of sense because they are sort of different. You'll see in a minute they are different. They are different atoms, and they're sort of relatively far apart on the periodic table. So they're going to have different numbers of protons and different numbers of neutrons. They definitely don't have the same number of electron shells, and your final answer should be 4 valence electrons. Okay, they both have 2 valence electrons as members of group 2. So they both have 2 valence electrons. They will both want to lose 2 electrons when they form compounds. And so that's why they have similar chemical properties. And really quick, just to show you guys, strontium and barium, you go to your reference table. And what I would do is the first thing is you're going to look on the back of the periodic table, and you're going to find the names and the atomic numbers. Don't always assume that strontium is going to be like S something and that barium is going to be B something. But in this case, it does seem pretty intuitive. Strontium is SR. And then you got to find barium by name, and you see it's down here. Barium is BA, so they do sort of follow, the way they should. But sometimes things like sodium is Na, That gets mixed up with sulfur, which is S. So just be careful. Use the back of this table and make sure. So you see strontium and barium. To go again, the same number of protons. Well, strontium has 38. Barium has 56. So it can't be the same number of protons. If you were to look at the mass numbers, the approximate mass numbers, and subtract the number of protons, you would know that they don't even have close to the same number of neutrons. And then electron shells. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 electron shells for strontium. It's in period number 5. Barium has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sorry about that. It's in period number 6. So they don't have the same number of electron shells. They don't have the same number of protons, and they don't have the same number of neutrons, but they do have the same number of valence electrons. They have 2 valence electrons. So that's your final answer. All right. And then the other one is a quick definition question. Back to number 9. Which term represents the fixed proportion of elements in a compound? This is just a sort of definition question. So chemical formula is going to be your answer. Atomic mass is the total of the number of protons and neutrons in an atom. Molar mass is the mass of 1 mole of that substance. The density formula, I'm not quite, we don't learn about that. I'm not even sure what that phrase even means. That might just be a throw-in answer choice. Chemical formula, the best way I can explain why number 9 is 3 is to give you the example we talked about in class. And that's the difference between water, which is H2O, and hydrogen peroxide, which we saw in the video yesterday about empirical formula, H2O2. So these are 2 very different, not very different. Well, they're 2 very different compounds, very different properties, but they have very similar chemical formulas. Okay, so you have H2O, which is water, and H2O2, which is hydrogen peroxide. Water is, we drink it, we need it for life. Hydrogen peroxide will change the color of your hair. It'll disinfect a cut on your hand or disinfect a cut on your body, and it can make you vomit. It can make you sick. It can even kill you. So the only difference between them is 1 oxygen atom. So the chemical formulas are different. The proportion of elements to each other in this compound is different. So it's the proportion of hydrogen to oxygen that makes these different. In this case, in water, you have 2 hydrogens for every 1 oxygen. That proportion of hydrogen to water, from hydrogen to oxygen, make it water, H2O. On the other hand, the proportion of hydrogen to oxygen and peroxide is 2 to 2 or 1 to 1. So it's a different proportion, and therefore it has a different chemical formula and it has different properties. Okay, so that's your answer to the do now. Let's move on to your meme of the day, backed by popular demand. So there you go. I'll let you guys soak that up for a minute. It's hilarious, I know. If you don't get it, element 116, do you want to hear a joke about it? That's its symbol, UUH. There you go. So there's your meme of the day. That's all I got, guys. Sorry. Your objective for the day is to demonstrate mastery of the mole unit by finishing a CASA learning assessment by Friday at 11:59 p.m. It's the same objective as you saw yesterday. Okay? So when we're done with this video, if I were you, I would get right back into it or start it so that you're done with that assignment on time. So again, the major thing that you're going to be working on between now and Friday should be that CASA learning. I know in my one video it said it was going to be like 15 to 20 questions, and it ended up being 50. I know that seems like a big jump, but they're all multiple choice. Some of them are pretty short and sweet. And quite honestly, guys, they're old Regents questions, and you have 3 days to do them, and it's going to really tell me, if you honestly do the assignment properly, it will really tell me whether or not you understand moles. All of those questions that we talked about in the review video are on there, and so it should give me a pretty good indication of how well you're doing. So take your time, do 10 to 15 questions a day over the next couple of days, and you'll be done in no time. Announcements. All we're going to do today is go over these announcements. I'll go over the exit slip on molarity very quickly, and then we're done. So getting online learning up on its feet. That is the first thing. First of all, about 2/3 of you combined total in both of my chemistry classes finished the molarity lesson, which was the first online sort of learning lesson that I posted. So in one hand, that's not bad. That's almost 67% of you guys did it. But then there's about 30% of you guys who did not do it. And that's a pretty significant number. So I'm really like focusing on that. We have a number of specific instructions to follow if kids are not partaking in the online learning activities. First of all, there are two things that'll get you, that will sort of compel me to call home. Because that's our first step. As per Mr. Arthur and the high school administration, we are to call home for one of two things. One, if you're failing, of course, if you're failing the class, meaning you didn't turn in some of the work up until the time school went on break. If you're failing and you don't make any steps to fix that, then I'll be calling home probably as early as tomorrow. Or if there's no online learning activity. So if I start posting things every day and I don't see evidence that you guys are actually participating in them, then there'll be a phone call home. So basically, by the end of this week, if you did not do the molarity lesson, if you did not do the Castle Learning and any Google Form things that I post between now and then that's pretty clear that you're not really in tune or embracing this online learning. So that will cause me to have to call home. All right, so make sure you guys are doing your work. And then also if you're failing, which is on Infinite Campus, right now, if you're failing the class, then I'll have to call home just so that you can sort of make up some of that work. I'm actually going to jump down here on that note to progress reports. My grades are finalized, and so if nothing changes right now, the progress report will go out at the end of the week with what you have. And so some of you guys who are not passing, I emailed you. And so if you'd like to fix that, you have between now and the 20th, the end of the week, to make any adjustments. Okay, so after I call home, and if I can't get a hold of anybody, or if it doesn't result in any sort of changes, then I have to email Mr. Arthur and the administration at the high school and let them know that I'm not getting work from you online. Okay, so that is the procedure or the protocol I'll be following to make sure that you are participating in the online learning activities. Let's see. Second thing, labs. Some of you guys have labs at home in your binders or your book bags that you didn't turn in. Don't lose them. Maybe you have corrections you were planning on doing or labs that you didn't quite finish and you're waiting to hand them in. Every minute's going to count. We still don't exactly know how we're going to handle lab minutes, if we lose a lot of school time here. So every minute counts. Don't lose your labs. And hold on to them until we get back. Also, some of you guys have labs with you that maybe you started but you did not complete. And I said this in the post, but if you have labs that you didn't finish, you are welcome to finish them at home. Use your phone, take a picture of all the pages that you finished, and then email them to me, and I'll grade them. So one way you can sort of improve your grade, or if you're failing because you're missing 2 or 3 different labs from earlier in the quarter, you are welcome to finish the labs, take pictures of them, and then email them to me. Okay. All right. Castle Learning reminder. That is the big activity for the week. Again, 50 questions. I will check and see how you guys are doing, give you guys some feedback on those as well. But Castle Learning is due this Friday at midnight. Email me. Guys, this is it. This is all we have. We have these videos, these Google Classroom posts. So just seriously, if there's something you don't understand or something you're not getting, or if you don't know how to post something, please email me often. I'm at my computer, all day. I am here to help you guys. So email me with any questions that you have. Just make them short. Try to make them professional emails. Dear Mr. Barone, I'm having a hard time doing this. What should I do? Sincerely, student X. Okay. Progress reports we already talked about. So the rest of this video is going to be going over the exit slip on molarity that I did give back to you, and then talking about scheduling tutoring sessions if you need some help. Okay, so here we go. This was your exit slip. It was the intro to Screencastify. Most of you guys filled it out right on the form, which is nice. It's the easiest way to do it. Some of you guys did it on a separate Google Doc or a PDF. If at all possible, try to fill it out right on the sheet. It makes it easier. If you filled out this question and you showed me your work and you got the right answer, you got 10 out of 10. And that for right now on Infinite Campus is going in as a classwork grade, which is 10% of your grade. I believe everything we are going to do in this online learning activity phase will be probably considered classwork as 10% of your grade. Okay, so just keep that in mind. This was a bonus question. Most of you guys who did it did give it a shot and did well with it, but this did not count against you if you left it blank. So the molarity, really quick, we're going to do this one. I'll give you the answer to both of these, and then we will just make the final announcement, and then I'm done. So molarity, according to your reference table, is defined as moles per liter. So this question was as simple as taking the number of moles and the number of liters and dividing it. So I can actually, I believe you guys will see this. Nope, recording a background tab. Now it's different. So I know why. Okay, so I will figure out how to put that on the PowerPoint next time. But the molarity equation on the last page of your reference table is simply big capital M for molarity is simply the number of moles divided by the number of liters. Okay, so for this question, moles divided by liters. Okay, so in this one, it was as simple as taking 0.35 and dividing by 0.075. So it was 0.35 moles of this substance divided by the volume in liters, which is 0.075. So 0.075. So that's it. 0.35 divided by 0.075 should have given you a final answer of 4.6666666, so on. Or if you round that to the nearest tenth, which I recommend, 4.7 should have been your answer. Now, a couple of things. Most people got that number. There were some small rounding mistakes, like 4.6666 repeating does not round to 4.6. That would round up to 4.7, but that's fine. And then the biggest problem was probably the units. 4.7 little m would be meters. So that is not what you put down for mole, for molarity. If you were just doing moles, you could write MOL, but molarity is a compound unit. It includes two things. So you have two choices. You could write moles per liter like this, like MOL, all over a capital L for liters. So you could write moles per liter like that. Or what I recommend, the unit for molarity is simply a capital M. So your final answer should be 4.7 with a big M. That's 4.7 molar. That's the solution that is 4.7 molar. Okay? Okay, last one is a bonus. Really quick, I'm going to fly through this because we are running long here. Barium chloride. This is a bonus question. Barium chloride is Ba plus 2, Cl minus 1. So its formula after you crisscross Ba plus 2 and Cl minus 1 should have been BaCl2. Okay, so some of you guys messed up the gram formula mass because you didn't account for that. What you do is you do the mole equation with 55 grams. So how many moles is 55 grams of that? I believe it ended up being like 0.26 moles or something along those lines. Then you take that number of moles and divide it by that. You should have had an answer of about 0.16. Let me see, double check here. 0.1 or 0.1. About 0.1 molar should have been your answer. Okay, I'll leave it at that. All right, so that was your exit slip feedback. Hopefully you guys did okay with that. To go back here to these scheduling tutoring sessions, if there's anything you're not understanding, if you don't know how to submit work, if you don't understand something on Castle Learning and you want to know, email me. And in the next few hours or days, I think I'm going to have a procedure for scheduling a face-to-face like tutoring session. I can get a whiteboard or a chalkboard here, and I can help you out with something. We can do that individually or in small groups. If there's something you don't understand, I just need you to email me, and we will respond accordingly. All right? I promise you that. All right. Our objective was to demonstrate the mastery of the mole unit concepts by finishing a Castle Learning assessment by this Friday at 11:59 p.m. We went over the molarity question from the first lesson as well as a do now. So that's it for today, guys. Please get back to Castle Learning. I'm going to go right now and check your progress. If you're failing currently, I sent you an email earlier this morning. You need to do the Newsella work and or any missing labs in order to change that. If you're not active online with the online learning activities, again, I need you to be active on those or else I will have to call home. So there are two things that might necessitate me to call home. So if you don't want that to happen, which I don't want that to happen, you have to make some adjustments and you have to fix those things. All right, guys? So I know you guys can do it. It's like day 2 here. I think you're doing a good job. Keep it up, and I will see you guys tomorrow.